That music from the Vancouver band Actors means it's time for Sandboxing. That is the name of our monthly AI column, and we are about to cross over. We're going to cross over into 2025. And our columnist is going to share with us some of the biggest AI news of the year. So we can all sound smart when we get together at New Year's Eve parties tonight and talk about our use of AI and how we're sucking enough energy to power a whole other sun. He is Kris Krüg, of course. He's with us in studio. He's the founder of Future Proof Creatives. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Stephen.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for partaking in the New Year's Day bling that we brought for you.
It's wild around here this morning. I've never seen you guys like this.
Isn't it lovely? I'm enjoying it. Okay, so I guess, ChatGPT is what, 2 years old now?
Yep.
So we had our second year of it.
Yeah.
What have been the biggest advancements this year, would you say, in AI then?
Well, I mean, GPT is an interesting place to start. Remember when it came out a couple of years ago, and it seemed like just a magic trick? You'd asked it for a poem, and it would conjure up a poem, or you'd tell it your problems, it would give you some relationship advice, and it was really quite amazing. But now we're seeing kind of the whole next level where it's getting baked into all sorts of applications that are being used all around us. So all sorts of companies are taking the tools that ChatGPT has given them and building all sorts of custom stuff, from doctors that can assess your mental health care symptoms to diagnostic tools that people are using, educational tutors that are taking people through their whole high school learning journey. And all these things have been built on top of the original ChatGPT we were given a couple of years ago.
Right. And so what's the difference between AI as a catchphrase, as, now with AI, Cheerios now with AI, versus something that is actually that's been altered or changed to have a real AI application?
I think the best way to describe it is it's become very easy to make all sorts of software smarter. Yeah. You can essentially just take a small piece of code that OpenAI gives you, start to include it in your application, and anything your software did before becomes a whole lot smarter all of a sudden. It can actually think, it can make decisions, it can scan data and make some sense of it all.
There you go. I was listening to a podcast a little while ago about AI in music and about how a composer who has just sort of broken into doing music for films and television thinks his days are numbered and is off looking for another gig because of what AI has been able to do with music. And to me, the interesting part of it was that he said when you're writing a novel, AI. It doesn't know how to write a novel, but AI does know the process for writing music, because so much of writing music is trial and error, plugging something in, seeing if it works, if it doesn't, backing out and doing something else.
Right.
How smart is this stuff getting?
Very similar to the traditional creative process, right? Isn't that what we're...
exactly.
Yeah. We're seeing, behaviors that resemble kind of true creativity. We're taking a whole bunch of influences or inspirations that is the stuff you've been trained on, and you're actually understanding it, and you're trying different permutations together. And then you've got another thing that's like a critic built into the AI that can look at the results and see what works and see what doesn't, and then continue to refine and work back and forth. And so we're seeing that across all sorts of creative disciplines, though I'd tell your friend not to give up yet.
No, well, this is not a friend of mine. This is a podcast that I heard. But in the end, what he did was he's got a whole bunch of unfinished songs that AI is now helping him finish.
Right. Well, this year was a big year for me because, as you know, I've been a photographer for like 20 years, and I've made tens of thousands of analog film portraits of people's faces. So with the SFU Meta Creation Lab this year and this really cool tool they've built, I was able to train a new AI model on only my photography. So the only human faces it's ever seen before are these 20,000 analog film photos that I fed it. So now it can think of and generate new faces, not just taking the eyes from you and the mouth from me and sticking them together, but it understands, based on the 20,000 faces that I've shown it and the 1,000 epochs of training upon those faces, it can understand human faces and create and generate new ones. So think about your podcast or composer friend.
Yeah.
He could train a new AI model that's never heard a single note of any music except for his own.
Right.
And he could train that in lots of different ways. And then he could continue to add new things to it, whether it be writings that he's inspired by, a new idea for a song, into his AI model that's only ever experienced his music, that gives him back new music that is very much his own. He put everything in, and he owns everything that comes out.
Okay, that's interesting then. So it doesn't have to be you're out there ripping stuff off the web and violating copyright every time you blink.
Well, I mean, for us in BC, like this is the most exciting thing. It's like we're not Silicon Valley, and so we're trying to find our place in the whole BC AI ecosystem and stuff. And so it's going to be not just one big idea or one corporation, but a whole bunch of different ideas that represent diverse voices that represent the values of this community and stuff. So we're going to see all sorts of tools trained in lots of different ways. Also, this SFU lab is really cool. This AutoLoom product they have, they're letting all sorts of different creatives train small model data sets on only their information, stuff that they own the inputs to and the outputs from.
Okay. Now, what about failures? I mean, this is still a very new technology, and a lot of people are afraid of it. But have we seen, have any limitations of AI, I guess, been exposed this year?
I mean, you must have seen some of the funny stumbling blocks along the way this year. It's quite obvious that AI will give you an answer to your question with great confidence whether or not it's true. It will straight make stuff up.
Yeah.
And so that's like
so
the
will
most...
most people, though.
Well, that's a great philosophical point. You know, a lot of times you don't know when other people are making stuff up or not. So it's probably at least as accurate as many of the humans that we encounter or whatever. But the way that it cites its sources and just completely lies and stuff has been a real eye opener. And then we've seen a lot of biases and all sorts of misogyny, sexism, racism, homophobia baked right into the tools. You know, I can't get away from thinking of AI as a mirror, just kind of reflecting back to us the data that we've put out into the world and the perspectives we put out into the world. And so I think that I think of one example where an HR resume evaluation tool looked out at all the senior managers in the world, determined that they were mostly of a certain demographic, and then started biasly filtering up the applications for senior management jobs, excluding women, excluding minorities, because it looked around the world and it said, most people are old white men that are in management positions. This must be what you guys want. I'm going to give you what you want.
Isn't that interesting?
It's crazy.
And I wonder how that's working with the sort of backlash against DEI that we see. We've just talked about that a moment ago, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're seeing some companies back off it, largely in the United States and largely because of politics.
Interesting. I didn't hear that segment, but I know that a lot of people are looking. When we look inside these AI models and have them generate new stuff, we're seeing that it actually does represent a lot of the racism, homophobia, sexism that we see in society. And so we want to make sure that when we come back here like next year and we're reflecting on 2025, that when we look in this mirror, we look back and see an AI that we're proud of and a world that we're proud of.
Kris, always great to talk with you. Thank you so much for coming in, and a Happy New Year to you, and I look forward to the brave new world of next year.
I'm going to hang around and have another champagne. Thank you very much, Stephen.
We're not pouring champagne in the studio. That's not happening here. By the way, for real, it's not. It absolutely is not. Kris Krüg, the founder of Future Proof Creatives, also our Sandboxing columnist, and he's with us once a month on the program.